Yes, I'll pop on in. Greetings, fellow shippers of the sacred sound current, Dr. Richard, Stan, Tom, Dan, and my beloved Pauline. I'd like to just drop in a vibration here, coming from a lineage here in Alabama where I am, where my great Aunt Mamie was the carrier of the medicine in her community. And those were the ways in which using sound, like balance was maintained during the pressurized times that were happening here in the South. The way to maintain balance, and I'm looking at that frequency of balance to represent health, was to be with the plants and particularly to be with the prayers. So, in terms of a sound current, when it comes around, like to offer that prayer for the initiation of this intention and to allow the frequency of what we have come here to engage to flow forth freely and take care of the business that it's intended to take care of. And my contribution to it is to bring that balance. So I have a prayer for you all and for those that come to hear this vibration, that we usher in this time of being guided by love. So welcome everyone. And thank you, Dan. Thank you for considering us to be part of this sacred harmonic circle. Really appreciate what you bring to the world. And as I learn to remember each and every one of you, really thank you for your way you walk through this world.
A beautiful prayer. Thank you. That was lovely. I'm Richard Grossman. You can drop the doctor for the time being anyway. I don't use that too much anymore. A quick story, because I'm a storyteller and I love stories. My appreciation for sound really started in earnest one day when I was riding in a car with two friends of mine and their newly talking child who was sitting in the back seat in his backseat car. And this was a long time ago. I was at the time working as a welder in a Whole Foods factory. And we were driving, and the little boy in the back of the car was making these sounds like shh, shh, shh. And it was cosmic. It was an incredibly beautiful sound. And then I asked him what that sound was, because I was like, that's beautiful. And he said, that was the sound I heard before I was born. And that blew my mind, really. It was like an astounding experience. And so, my life is complicated in a lot of ways. I'm a writer, I'm a ayahuasquero, shaman, maybe shaman. I don't call myself shaman. I'm also an acupuncturist, though mostly retired from that. And that's who I am. It's really a joy to be here, to see you all and to be part of this beautiful experience and sharing here. Thank you.
Wow, lovely. I'm so excited for where we're going to go in the next 80 or so minutes. And I'd love to circle back to Pauline, or you're usually with Akah. I don't know if you can, if Zoom allows us.
We'd usually be playing together, but we've tried playing separately on Zoom and it definitely doesn't work. So I will just play the song and he'll bop along.
All right.
I'm just not seeing on my screen the musician sounds on.
Yeah, if you go to the audio, what we could maybe do, Richard, why don't we start with you since you're set up as you take a sip of tea.
Okay,
Get you on live TV, and then I can direct.
I'm not picking my nose, Audio settings. Mine says original sound from musician, so it's off someplace else on my settings.
Yeah, that's the one you want to select. And
no,
then...
it's already selected on mine.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So anyway, I'll start with one of the oldest instruments around. And this is a antara from the Nazca culture in Peru. This is a beautiful instrument that hadn't existed for a very long time. The Nazca culture was, I don't know how long, several thousand years ago. And in the archaeological ruins, they found these mounds of pieces of these flutes. And the basic idea is that when they played them ritually in ceremony. And then at the end of the ceremony, because they were so sacred, they destroyed them because they could never replicate or duplicate that experience again with that particular instrument. I promise I won't destroy this after I play. That would be too dramatic. But this is a scale and a sound that hadn't been heard for thousands of years until the Archaeological Museum in Peru hired a friend of mine, Alfredo Navarro, to recreate these flutes from the pieces. So this is one of those recreations. And let's see. So I usually play that when I want to work with the ancients, with the ancestors who were primitive in many ways by our standards, but were astoundingly wise in connecting the worlds, connecting the two worlds or the three worlds of the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. And when you're hearing that, you're hearing an ancient voice interpreted modernly because we don't have any idea how they played them. But you're hearing something that really is from, that time period that we would call the dawn of history, the dawn of civilization, the dawn of human flowering, really. So thank you.
Yeah, you just dispelled any myth that music can't heal.
Thank you.
And transport and transcend language, time, space. I've seen some beautiful comments in the chat saying things like hauntingly beautiful and otherworldly, deeply touching.
Oh,
And I've never wanted to play an instrument before or played one, and now I'm called to want to do so.
beautiful.
Thank you for starting us off that way,
No,
Richard.
I just want to share one last thing is I have a very dear friend who's a First Nation person from Australia, one of the better didgeridoo players in the world. And people will tell him, I can't sing, I can't dance, I don't have any rhythm. And he says, mate, I'm not going to try the accent. Mate, if you can walk, you can dance. If your heart beats, you have rhythm. If you can talk, you can sing. So yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. I'd love to hear from Pauline and Akah, anything that stirred in you and anything you'd like to share.
You want to go, sweetie? Oh, the wind instruments always invoke in me a sense of being connected to the source, thinking of Richard's breath. And here is this tool, Richard as the instrument, as my elders would share with me. And here is this tool that he is using to articulate this message that he has come to download. And this is the deep appreciation I have for you, Richard, and being the channel that you are. Because anybody could use the tool, just like a hammer. Anybody could use it, but what emerges from, as our elders teach us, what emerges from his intention. And this is the aspect of music that really allows me to sit here with you, which I feel is a miracle coming out of Jersey City, New Jersey. And you hear me speak about the challenges of life that I have had, and maybe culturally that has, it evokes what it is to navigate through this life with the challenges that come. Now, I may speak about segregation, I may speak about slavery, that is part of my history. And sometimes I do feel it is swept under the rug as if there's a shameful thing of how we can treat other humans certain ways. But I speak of it in terms of how the music allowed the navigating of a challenge and awakened within an ability to not only navigate through that challenge, but as Richard shared, the music, the otherworldly, the recognition of other existences, other potentialities that are present to focus on and experience. And here's the tool of the flute, allowing our mind to focus on the sound, the series of silent spaces that Bridget used so beautifully, and then to invoke the stimulation of our ears, our senses, our sense of hearing, which has the mathematical ability, not like the eyes, it has the mathematical ability to tell the difference between frequencies. And that is something that is really powerful to acknowledge if you're having any challenges in your life. The prayer I want to share with you was a prayer that helped me navigate out of those challenges, but really to discover the alchemy as we are coming out of that resurrection consciousness, this alchemy of the concept of Christ, not necessarily the religious interpretation of scriptures, but to speak about the concept of consciousness that Christ represents, and how for my family and my village in Alabama, this connecting to hymns and gospel music and this way of igniting the sound current that you represent with prayer. But for that church, that Friendship Baptist Church in Goshen, Alabama, you know, the floors was one wood plank, and the heels of the women, when it came on that downbeat, you felt like you were in a whole drum. You know, the whole church became a drum. And then when the songs came that were the prayers, there's this sense of knowing that there are other potentials of experience to focus on, not just the oppression that's there, because it wasn't there in that moment. What's there are the trees and the plum trees, the peach trees, the abundance that is all around. And these prayers brought about an awareness of how people can work together and respect each other and navigate through the challenges that may be present. So as you hear this Lord's Prayer in Aramaic, I'm going to begin with a chanting of the Creator's name, the great parent of creation, A-B-W-O-O-N. Ab-woon. And it flows in a long cadence, so you feel the breath, you hear the sound, you feel the vibration of your being. And it is given as an alchemy prescription to find your creative space in the universe. In that intention of the Creator, you find your perfect place, your own place, so that you feel the power of your own creativity. And not just your power, but the purpose for your presence. So I'm going to take the original sound for musicians. Now, when I click it, that means it's engaged. Yes? Is that correct? Okay. Make sure I have that correct. So let me demonstrate the chant of Abun. And you play with it. Find your place. So deep inhale on this. And you lift the muscles of the pelvic floor as if you're holding back your urine. You lift that energy up. Abu. And I'll be playing this instrument called an udu. As we do that, we'll chant that name about 3 times. And I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer, which is also an alchemy prescription given to utter your sound that helps unlock the frequencies that may cause blocks in the consciousness. So the vibrating of your mouth, your sound, your tongue touching the upper palate helps to open up neurotransmitters and neural hormones. So you no longer focus on the patterns of the past. The neurotransmitters and neural hormones that get released help you to see other potentials, other possibilities, right? So without knowing all the meaning of the words, just know you're doing that. And as you chant Ab-Woon, you'll feel the presence of this sound and how it opens you up. All right? Have that experience. So inhale, let's synchronize our breath. Up top of that inhale, hold. Exhale. Now we'll inhale to begin, and you go at your own pace. You don't have to follow me. Abum de Bweshmaya, Nethkade Shemach, Dete Malkuta, Yahweh Sibiana Kaikana de Bweshmaya of Baara, Howlan Lakma de Sunganon Yamana, Washbutlan Howbane Waktaheen, Aikana Daf Kanan, Shwakanel Hayabane, Wayla Taklan Linis Yuna, Eila Patsan Min Bisha, Matul Laki Malkuta, Wahaila Watesh Bukta, Ram, Amin. So we send this prayer out, awakening the voice as the transformer of frequency, and frequency at the root of the physical experience transforms what takes place in our physical world. So as an elder taught us, Pauline and I, as you speak these sacred words, whatever you have come to know, be aware of what you intend to create. And use only the words that give birth to the experiences that are in alignment with what you come to bring as your gift. Give everything else to your prayers. As Amy said, if you don't have anything good to say about what's happening in the world or yourself, then don't say anything at all. Take it to your work. Take it to your creative chamber. In the name of love. We send these prayers out around the world that all beings are taken care of in a balanced way. Ask this for all our family and all our relations in the name of love. For hope.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, dear Akah. As often is the case, when you let go and surrender, the flow starts to happen. And I think our order has emerged here in a beautiful way with the wind and the breath moving into your percussion and some breath and prayer. Thank you for that. And I'd love to offer Pauline or Richard to share anything that was stirred in them, or Pauline, for you to share your gifts and share your voice.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Akah. Always stirring my heart with those prayers. A little backstory about the Lord's Prayer. So I met Akah in 1999, the year I got to LA, leaving London, really looking for a path, a path out of addiction. I was in addiction for a long time. And coming through a very traumatic early life with 3 matriarchal generation of suicide. And sound became music at a very early age. I remember as early as 7 years old, walking back from school, from boarding school. I was in boarding school at 6 years old when my mother passed. And I remember walking back from the school because it was close enough on Fridays that I could walk home for the weekend and then go back to school on Monday. And I remember this question, looking at the flowers, and it was just beautiful nature around. And I just remember, I wonder how songs are made. I was fascinated at 7 years old, and I've been answering that question my whole life. You know, now being 50 something, I'm still deep in the study of frequency, music, sound, songwriting, mantra, and its capacity to heal. And also witnessing myself as a mother, you know, an entrepreneur, a householder, a yogi, a sober being for nearly 20 years now, and really, you know, living a modern life with a young daughter of 11, and asking myself, like, how is my sound current? The way that I speak in my household, with my family, with my husband, with my daughter, with people, how is that contributing to creating my life? And so when I met Akah in 99, he really became sort of an example for me to follow, because I had no example growing up my whole life in boarding school and having a family that was not present. And so he became an example of how to walk in that frequency of learning how to work with your language, with your sound. And really, he used to call me the music minister, right? The minister of music, and in the healing container that we were in. And it was exactly what I was doing. I was learning how to work with sound as a healer. And mostly, still to this day, what comes out of my mouth. You know, because we've grown up in a culture, and we all know this, where language is not used in the way that it's supposed to be. You know, most of family culture is sarcastic and pinpointing and poking and provoking. And so to really, that's what I'd like to bring today, is how do we bring the healing frequency of sound in our household, with our children, if we have them, with our parents, if we're caretaking them, with our lovers, with each other. And so beyond being on the mat, you know, hours per day and teaching, you know, hundreds of women and doing concerts and all the things that we do and have done for decades now, it's like, how does the sound of the healing sound live in the household, live with myself? How am I, what is my subconscious communication with self every single day? How am I talking to myself? And that, for me, my music and my journey in music has been the biggest teacher in learning to love and accept myself where I am, you know, where I fall short in my life, how I apologize multiple times a day to my 11-year-old, you know, and how I grow from that. And just before I offer this song, going back to what Richard was talking about with the shaman, I remember hearing this quote many moons ago, and it always stayed with me. And so a Westerner went to the jungle and came to work with the shaman. And the first thing the shaman asked the Westerner was, when was the last time that you sung and you danced? And it seems so simple, and it is so simple. It is so simple. When was the last time you sung a song and you danced? So I'd love to offer this very simple song called Beautiful Day. This song was written many moons ago, one morning, sitting next to my grandfather. He had this beautiful house in South England, right on the coast in South Devon. And it was just one row of houses, a pub, and a post office. And he had the house at the end of the village. And every morning, he'd make his cup of tea, PG tips, little milk, and go sit on his bench and just watch the North Sea and this gorgeous, pristine, pebbled beach. And I just remember just talking about, I remember just the sound, the quiet, and the birds and the waves of the North Sea, which are very small. And I just started playing guitar because I've been doing music for a long time, but I actually only started playing guitar in my late 20s. And he said to me, go get your guitar. So I made my little cup of PG Tips and I went to get my guitar and I sat down next to him. And this song was it just was like many songs that come through me. It just came through. I'd been playing with the chords and this song came through. And it was just really about the simplicity of being present, now, here. And when when I think back of my grandfather and how this all wraps up the story, my grandfather had an extremely difficult life. Like, he went through 2 wars. He lost his wife and his daughter, my mother to suicide, his son to AIDS and drug addiction, both his sons. I mean, the man just went through so much hardship. And yet, I was with him on his deathbed, just was in such gratitude, laughed every day, told the most outrageous, funny stories, and lived his life in gratitude. And he left me that gift. When he took his last breath, he just was like, thank you for this life. And shortly after he passed, I had this dream. And it was just him and I driving in the car in the sky. And he was singing the song that I'd written. It was playing on the radio. That's what it was. It was playing, today must be the most beautiful day I've ever lived. Right? And he was playing, the song was playing. He just looked at me because I've dealt, with, again, my brother taking his life a few years ago, depression, addiction, my whole life, and how to come through that. And music has always been the healer. And he was reminding me of that, in this dream. He was like, just sing and dance and give thanks. So here's a beautiful day dedicated to my grandpa, dedicated to just remembering the simplicity of life. And beyond all the suffering and all the hardships that individually we go through in our family karma, in the world, in our communities, there is that great spirit, that great unseen energy, carrying, loving, tending to us with each breath. How's that sound? Today must be the most beautiful day I've ever lived. Waves are coming in, but I am sitting still. There ain't nothing I want for, I got everything that I need. So my conclusion is, it's the most beautiful day that I've ever lived. This special morning is the most fabulous morning I see. Woke up in the sunshine, made myself a cup of tea. Grandpa kissed my forehead, naked for another day. So simple harmony to me, it's the universe's way. Today must be the most beautiful day I've ever lived. Waves are coming in, but There is nothing I want for. I got everything that I need. So my conclusion is, it's the most beautiful day that I've ever lived. I take a walk, feeling all in all that I am, flowing with the rivers of life, trusting every woman, boy, girl, or man. For I am the flowers, I am the sun, I am everything that you see, living in perfect harmony in a beautiful world made for me. Today must be the most beautiful day I've ever lived. Waves are coming in, but I am sitting still. There is nothing I want for. I got everything that I need. So my conclusion is, it's the most beautiful day that I ever lived. Yeah. The most beautiful day that I've ever lived. So the invitation is for all of us, and I'm just so glad to be in this community this morning, is just to really be present to the gifts that are around us every single day. The people we're surrounding ourselves by, the nature, the food we get to eat, the simplicity, coming back to the simplicity of life. And like Richard was talking about, like that moment of hearing that child's sound and being so present to that sound. Like, how can we be present to all the sounds and all the beauty and all that is happening around us in every moment that we can?
Yeah, what I really appreciate about the three of you and the gifts that you brought this morning is that our focus this week is on technologies of hope. And when people hear technologies, they often think of high-tech stuff coming out of Silicon Valley. And yet what you're reminding us with your gifts and the music that you brought with you today is that music is one of the oldest technologies. And so much of our technology that we have in the world has separated us. And if we think of, us as a human, as a member, a single member, you're reminding us, you're helping us remember, to bring back together all of who we are as a human. And that's the healing power of music. That's the beauty of music. So thank each of you for this extraordinary gift of who you are and your commitment to helping to help each of us remember that we're human.
Absolutely. And if I can just build off that briefly, I've been on a handful of these streams, not nearly as many as my dear friend Tom, but in the last 15 minutes, I've gotten more text messages and DMs than ever before from musicians, a professional gong player, and spoken word poets and percussionists. So it just goes to show how quickly and how easily this universal gifts that we all can tap into, which I loved the themes that Richard spoke to there, and how it can bring us closer together, even if we're separated in physically in different places. Now,
can I build a little bit on?
Absolutely. I was just going to give the audience some reassurance that we will come back to some music of the stream. And at any point, if one of the three of you feels called to pick up a drum, a flute, or hymn, or sing a hymn, it's absolutely ready and welcome. But I suppose we'll do a little bit of talking. Akah, over to you.
It's something Tom was saying around remember, and what you're speaking about, Dan, just how we met each other again. It felt like around the fire, steeped in the technology of ancient practices. And I was just talking to a dear, dear friend of mine, more like a brother, and there's something emerged around this divide that happens when we go into adolescence, and what happens with the parents. And Pauline was talking about family, and just thinking about this remembering of the power of family, this resonant quality of our mass consciousness that family represents, which I've been inspired to dream about it being the source of world peace, if you will. But this idea of what it is to have your hormones awaken and emerge into the experience of life, that this divide that has been broadcasted, that we can begin to remember ourselves as adolescents, those of us who are elders, and have returned to this place of initiation and rites of passage, where, as Richard recognized the sound of the child, to recognize these sounds together. And when I was coming into the awareness of the power of music, I was invited into a West African drum class. And about 4 days into that, I was playing the bass drum and going through an intense training, I thought, but all of a sudden I heard the music. It's coming up around my ears. And there was this sense that when I had that experience, I didn't know what was happening at 19 years old. But Tom and Dan, when you're talking about the remembering, and Dan, when you're speaking about this sense of connecting, and with this effort, Ubiquity University, man, that is just incredible. It's just to consider our oneness. And as we speak about technology, Tom, as you brought that, like, this is a technology that can return that harmony to family that Pauline is talking about, and no longer this psychological divide of being a teenager. No, that you can emerge into the sound of being a teenager and being connected to what it is to be creative and be the lyrics, rather than just, in a screen. Because I have a dear friend, her son is stuck in the virtual game of life. And what about what it is to be your creative self and drop the poetry? Even if it's, you don't sing, drop the poetry. You're thinking about rhythm, rhythm and poetry. And so when you're speaking about technology, Tom, it's like there's something about us that is sound. There's something about the children in the neighborhoods of the Bronx and Brooklyn and uptown New York, where I was, where there was nothing for them to do. There were no services for them, and they were just fighting with each other until this impulse arose. And there were these tapping into the current of, the ingenuity awakened, and you broke open the light post, and you tapped into the electrical current, and you turned on the turntables and sound, and all of a sudden this rhythm would pop out and say, in comes sacred masculine flowing in the form of this here Akah man. I'm gonna bow down to this divine plan, because the Most High dropped the daughter in my hands, got me changing, expanding, growing, and knowing that there's a solution to the darkness trying to separate us from the oneness. We need a solution. So I drop my ego and bow to the infinite. Namo, Namo. The Most High teaches, bow to the infinite. Namo, Namo. Then in comes the sun at the early morning dawn, in an infinite shirt of truth. I chant and put it on, with two eyes closed and one eye open. I see universal knowledge coming to me. Drop into your sound, your song. That is one of the biggest teachings that I got from Turtle Hawk. Besides asking for permission and being invited, he would say, brother, and this is Turtle Hawk, this is the being, the ancestor now for me, my oldest spiritual brother. He's on the other side now, but at a land called Mahutasan, where I was able to learn these technologies, Tom, these technologies that were given as these sacred songs to sing for the bare spirit so that we have the regenerative nature. We remember our regenerative nature. Yeah. So what I'm expressing to you now is that, yeah, maybe these young men and women didn't know about the sacred ceremonies, but they began creating their own around music, right? Around the sound currents, around self-expression. So this is a charge for all of us, especially if you're facing challenges. Challenge yourself more than the challenge you face, and see what happens when you challenge yourself to express yourself in the name of love and with the rhythm of life. Oh.
Thank you, Akah. Richard, you mentioned at the top of the broadcast about the young man who was humming, singing the sound he heard before he was born, and I was taken back to an experience I had when I was doing a forest bathing, where we were encouraged to notice what we were hearing, and then to listen to the softest sound that we could hear. And I'd like to just have you speak a bit more to sound, to music, and the healing properties, and so much that it has to offer us.
I would love to. I would love to. I'm going to take a little segue to something else for a moment. I go to a weekly class on Hermetica and metaphysics. It's kind of a book reading club. And we were having a very intellectual discussion about, what all of these words mean in this book and that book and this author and that author. And it was fascinating. But then somebody said it's as though we're in a dark room and we all think that the darkness is the way it is. And until somebody turns on the light, you can't really see where you are. Hits the light switch. And I thought, well, that's not really what it's like. That's not really what this is. What this is we're all wearing these Google goggles, these VR things, masks on our face, and we're seeing exactly what our inner nature is ready to see or is able to see. For some people, what they're seeing on these goggles is hell. For some people, what they're seeing on these goggles is a religious idea of heaven, gods and goddesses, and whatever it is. And some people are seeing going to work and whatever life is, that's what they're seeing on these goggles. And it looks so real because the technology of this is very high. And here's what happens is that at some point, a person takes off their goggles, even if it's just for a moment. Perhaps it's in ceremony, perhaps it's in meditation, perhaps it's in a yoga class, perhaps it's, making love with your beloved. Anything can take these goggles off for that moment. When you take these goggles off, you see and you hear and you feel reality. And reality is utterly bright, beautiful, deep, eternal, infinite love. So that's the source of everything. And the goggles, most people, it's like, oh, where are my goggles? I got to put these back on again. This is too much. I can't handle that much love. I can't handle that much light. So I want to go back into the illusion. The ancients called this Maya. The Veda people called this Maya. And it's the illusion that we live within. And so what is silence? The way to make a person go crazy is to put them in a totally silent space. They have these rooms where there's, you could hear the blood going through your ears. It's so silent. And most people can handle half an hour or an hour of this before they, get me out of here. Because when you're in that silence, external silence, the only sound that's going on is the sound of your thoughts, the sound of your mind, the sounds of your words. And for most people, if you ever stop and pay attention to that stream of sounds in your mind, the words that we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we have, you can recognize pretty quickly that you're batshit crazy. But that's a comfortable place. We're used to it. We're used to that sound of our mind. So what is it that happens when we experience first silence? Silence is the beginning of all music. Silence is the beginning of all experience. Silence is the beginning of awareness. And can I read a poem? I want to read a Rumi poem. I'll call it a Rumi-ish poem, but it's one of my favorites. And it's called Love Said to Me. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and kind of really take this in. I worship the moon. Tell me of the soft glow of a candlelight and the sweetness of my moon. Don't talk about sorrow. Tell me of that treasure hidden, if it is to you. Then just remain silent. Last night I lost my grip on reality and welcomed insanity. Love saw me and said, I showed up. Wipe your tears and be silent. I said, oh love, I am frightened, but it's not you. And love said to me, there is nothing that is not me. Be silent. I will whisper secrets in your ear. Just nod yes and be silent. A soul moon appeared in the path of my heart. How precious is this journey. I said, oh love, what kind of moon is this? And love said to me, this is not for you to question. Be silent. I said, oh love, what kind of face is this I see within me? Angelic or human? And love said to me, this is beyond anything that you know. Be silent, be silent. I said, please reveal this to me. I am dying in anticipation. And love said to me, that is where I want you, always on the edge. Be silent. You dwell in this hall of images and illusions. Leave this house now and be silent. I said, oh love, tell me this. Does the Lord know you are treating me this way? And love said to me, yes, of course I do. Just be totally, completely, absolutely silent. So now we'll sit in silence for the next 45 minutes. What was your question? I lost it in the poem.
Well, thank you for sharing the poem. That was beautiful. It was really just building off of some of your opening comments about
Okay.
the young man that was remembering the
Yes.
sound he heard before he was born.
Yes. So my comments on that were that we've all had that experience. We don't remember it, or we may remember it in moments. But almost like all music, all spiritual oriented music, and even all music in general, really comes from that original memory of the sound of what we experienced in utero. And even possibly, probably, almost certainly, most likely, from the sound that we were immersed in, the Nad Brahm, the sound of creation that existed even before we were born. We can't remember that, or some people maybe do, but it's something that we can't imagine because we can't imagine the infinite. We can't imagine God. We can try, and we can create religions around it. We can make up things and stories and ideas, but we can't not imagine that. We can only experience it. And so, music is really beautiful, but what's really important for me in music are those moments of silence between the notes, because it's in the moment of silence between the notes that the soul can have that brief moment of remembrance of what silence is. So that little boy knew, he remembered. He was young, probably in another year or two, he'd completely have forgotten all of that in the, toys and school and learning how to grow up and all of the ideas and concepts and religion gives us. But he knew it. And within each one of our hearts is that space of silence. All music, to me, all music sings to it, all music prays to it, all music leads to it. And, I love those moments of performance, call it, where, the musician finishes and people don't applaud. They don't throw fruit, rotten fruit, but they don't applaud because they're overwhelmed by the awe, the awesomeness, the awesome terrificness. And terrificness comes from the word terror. Awe comes from the word awesome and awful. Awe is standing or kneeling or bowing in utter humiliation. Humility, not humiliation, forgive me. Utter humility at the immensity of creation. This is the core to me. This is the source. And everything else is Google goggles. Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of quick thoughts are coming up for me on those Google goggles. When you shared your music and your poem, it took me back to certainly not the only, but absolutely one of the most intense moments of my life in removing those goggles was sitting with you in
Yeah,
ceremony. It was a
I
couple.
remember.
Yeah, yes. And it's really incredible to have those experiences in all different myriad of ways. And the other thing that was coming up for me while you were sharing is, I don't know, Tom, if you were thinking this too, but um, Dr. Marty Glenn of the Risio Institute is considered one of the sort of thought leaders in North America in peri and prenatal psychology, pre and post birth. And she has all of her life's work and clinical training and research has gone into Risio Institute. And one of her key stories is similar to the one that you're sharing around that child where she was working with a client and um, there were memories from in the womb that had sort of transcended generations, and it was a very auditory transmission. And so it's just really incredible the way in which sound and frequencies and music can touch us in the present and can stay with us and even be passed down. I want to throw it to the group again. I saw Pauline playing with her guitar, and I'm wondering if either of you are called to build and riff off what was shared or what's coming up for you now as this has been the fastest stream we've had. That's for sure. I wish this was longer. We have 23 minutes, so I want to put it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Richard. That was just, yeah, the silence really is the space of healing, the neutrality, the void. And Rumi is such a healer for these times. I really feel that. He's a deep teacher of mine since I was 13, because I started writing poetry very early on, just as a way to kind of navigate my own consciousness and what was happening. And there's just so much healing that he brings forth. And I actually, just to riff off what he was saying, I'd like to bring in a quote from another great master of sound, specifically relating to music, Inayat Hazrat Inayat Khan, who wrote The Mysticism of Sound and Music, and also The Music of Life, which was one of my very early studies. I never went to school to study music. I never did any of that. I really was on a personal discovery, and it was always a healing path for me. So I was, learning through books and people and experiences, and writing my own songs and figuring out my own sounds and all of that. But he says this great quote. He said, "Someday music will be the means of expressing universal religion. Time is wanted for this, but there will come a day when music and its philosophy will become the religion of humanity." I'm going to put that in the chat for everybody so you can grab the book if you're inspired, study, look him up. Just an incredible Sufi teacher, much like Rumi, but very focused on the sound and sound frequency and music. Just an amazing being. Going off what Richard was saying, I think that one of the healing tools that we have for these times, with yoga coming from the East to the West, and the West doing whatever they did with yoga, it's still relevant. People are practicing, people are opening, people are discovering themselves through the way that it's being shared in the West. But one thing I think that's undeniable about the practice of yoga and these times, and regulating our mental health and finding that doorway to that silence, that taking the goggles off, is mantra, is reciting and repeating mantra and learning the technology, because the technology is a science. A science is a sacred art. And essentially, all of these ancient sacred sciences, arts, are technologies that we can use as humans to discover the self, the true self. And so I'd like to just bring in this piece of mantra and how incredibly potent it is to understand how mantra cuts through the illusion of the egos and the illusions of the goggle life, the Google goggle life, right? And for me, that's been the primary healing tool for the last 20 years. That is what I have worked with to regulate, my own self in my own life and karma, and what I've come to work with, and take off those Google goggles. I love that, Richard. I'm gonna borrow that. That is really, really good. So I just would love to offer a little mantra, it's a healing mantra, and it's very, very simple. I'll put it in the chat because we can actually all sing along with this, and it might be a nice little way to close out or just kind of end this, is to chant together. So the mantra is Ramadasa, Sa Se So Hang. and I'll put it in the chat for you. Let's see, here we go. So Ra, Ma, Da, Sa, very simple, right? First part, Sa, Se, So, Hung, H-U-N-G, H-U-N-G, here we go. So the first part, Ra is the sun, Ma is the earth, Da, moon, Sa, infinity. I am that infinity. When I connect with my soul, I am an infinite being. Sa, Se, So, Hung. I am thou. I am the oneness. I am the sun, the moon, the stars, the cosmos. I am all of it. And so in the Kundalini tradition, which I've studied extensively and practiced extensively, and it's what I teach today, mainly in a way of empowering women to empower themselves as householders, as mothers, as wives, as workers. This is such a simple mantra and such a transformative mantra. So the way that you can chant it is you can chant it either for yourself and bring it into your own being for your own healing, or you can project the mantra out in a in a global healing situation. You can use the mantra to pray for global healing of your family, or you can bring it inward. And the way that we do it is very simple, is we place the hands and open up the palms in this way. So the palms are flat. And what we're doing in this way, which we've seen, in so many photos and so many ancient teachers have shown this kind of prayer, right? It's kind of like I'm receiving the energy of the cosmos. I'm receiving the heavenly energy, and it's coming in through the palm, and I'm receiving it into my body. You can close your eyes and bring your gaze at the third eye, and we can chant together, Rama Dasa, Sa Se Soha. So I propose that you just listen for the first round or two, and then we'll go into it. So Rama Dasa, sun, moon, earth, cosmos, I am thou. Infinity, I am thou, from impersonal to personal. I am an infinite being. I am all of creation. All of creation lives inside of me, in a nutshell, to answer your question, Judy. Ramadasa Sa Se Soha. Sa Se
And now whisper it. Loud whisper. Sa. Say. So. Repeat it silently in your heart. Connect to the silence, but repeat the mantra. Please stay with your eyes closed and feel the mantra still moving in your mind and moving in your heart. And let's just sit in the silence as you repeat the mantra internally. Sending out this prayer, this world prayer, this healing prayer across all nations, all lands, all oceans. May it be received in every heart, in every household. Inhale deeply. Exhale. And relax.
Beautiful. Thank you, Pauline. What an incredible way to spend our time today. Now, as we begin to wrap up, I'd love to sneak in at least one question, and I might have to lovingly challenge the three of you to give us your brief and deeps so that we can leave a little bit more time for a musical sort of sing out. But really, Tom, jump in here if you want to tie together the themes of today. But what I feel coming through is not just saying, but showing how music transcends and connects. And what I'd like to ask and offer is, for the three of you, your own healing journey has impacted the gifts that you now share with the world. And what I'd love to look at here, we're halfway through this week on technologies of hope and creativity in the 21st century. I'd love to just kind of ask you to offer a perspective or a rallying cry to our viewers about what we need to do now in this moment to ensure that these universal and time tested traditions and practices are things that we claim and we maintain as we move into the future. And I'll just give one very brief technological example. some of you or some of our viewers may be familiar with a TikTok sensation recently. This band, Hillsong United, a number of years ago released a song, Spirit Lead Me, go Spirit Lead Me where my trust is without borders. And it has exploded all over the world on TikTok, where folks are recording their own renditions of this, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of millions of views. And it's created a lot of conversation around how the music, even if it's sung in another language, is calling to people's souls. And so I'd love to just go maybe for 30 seconds or 60 seconds to each of you about what people can do as we are in this time with so much happening in the world to cultivate the kind of message that transcends time and helps as we move into the 21st century with more connection and more opportunities for healing of ourselves and others. And I'd love to start with you first, Richard.
30 seconds, huh?
Hey, you're pretty good at that.
30 hours or 3 hours. I think as far as advice goes, my closing thoughts on advice would be for everybody present to learn how to listen. Learn how to really listen. Learn how to listen without the thoughts in the mind going on. And especially to music, to maybe put headphones on and just let the music overwhelm you, so that the only thing that exists is the music. And the other part is get a musical instrument. If you don't have one, learn to play something. Learn to, I think flutes are one of the Native American style flutes are one of the best ways to start, because it's hard to make a wrong note once you learn the basics. And learn how to sing. Learn how to sing. I was, when I first started working with medicine in ceremonies, I never sang, because when I was in the 3rd grade, the music teacher, we were doing a performance and she heard me sing and said, "You go to the back row, mouth the words, you have the worst voice I've ever heard." And I never sang until I was sitting in ceremony one day, and this voice came from my heart that said, "Sing now." And I was like, "No way. No, forget it. No way." And it said, "Sing." "No way. I can't sing. I have a horrible voice. Sing." And all of a sudden it was like an Ikaro came out of me, full formed. And I was singing, and I haven't stopped singing since. And that voice of that teacher just went gone. Because it's a birthright to sing, as it is a birthright to speak, as it is a birthright to know the infinite love within. It's my 60 seconds.
Beautiful. And, as a teacher, for me, one of the things you imparted on me when one of our dear friends, Cortland, asked you, "Richard, what makes a great healer?" I was surprised, and I'm no longer, you said, a musician. And that stuck with me and has reminded me of the value and the importance to listen and to speak to people in ways that they can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pauline, I'd love to go to you and then to Akah.
Oh, that really touched my heart, what you just said. Like, made me a little teary. Ooh. And what you said about what Richard said to you, that become a musician to become a good healer. Wow, that's just incredible. Ah, get loud, use your voice, and know the power of your words. Practice in your household, practice with those who are closest to you, because that is the hardest. Marriage and parenting and relationship, no matter who it's with, is the hardest yoga. It's easy to do this online, and be great, but in the home. And so my encouragement is learn to communicate with each other in loving, responsible, radically responsible ways, and get loud, feel your feelings, use your voice to sing out, and know that you have a voice, and use your voice to express, that's a whole other thing. But conscious anger, conscious sadness, conscious fear, like
Mm.
work with all of it, like work with the full human experience, with no limits, with all of it, and really embrace it, because I think it's with the love of self that we're going to find our way to peace. It's with the full acceptance of our humanness and our divinity that we're going to find peace. And so all of the different, gifts that we've been given with the voice, because the voice is the frequency of the being. Yes.
So listen and get loud. These are beautiful, beautiful distillations. And Akah,
and express yourself. Yes.
listen, get loud, and express yourself. And what would you like to add as your parting words?
Yes, as parting words, what I shared with you was ways I navigated through my own rock bottom. So to face the challenges that we are individually facing, as well as collectively on Mother Earth. Use your voice, call on love, right? Call on love to show itself to you, how you are to remember, as Tom was saying. That's my whole work with being an empowerment coach, is to take people through training to be empowered by their way, your way, to call on your power, call on your creative power. And it is your voice. So use your voice. Sit in the stillness and the silence, and then practice literally sitting there. And I'm calling on you, love. I'm calling on you to guide me. I'm calling on you to show me my voice. I'm calling on you to awaken the creative power within. Let me see the responses that are there to cooperate with the intentions that I am here to co-create. Thank you for showing up for me today. Thank you for bringing the power of love into my awareness so that we see all people living in balance, taking care of children, fed mothers, taking care of fathers, being taken care of, and everyone living in a safe place to grow. Call on it, call on it. Use your power to call on the truth of who you are. Infinite energy being with the ability to create. So step into yourself as a creator and speak only. This is the assignment. Speak only into what you know you need to create. For all our family and all our relations, in the name of love. Thank you all for this incredible effort and this incredible birthing of the Aquarian age that you are contributing to. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you that are saying, hey, I wish we had a little more, there is opportunities to connect with all three of these incredible folks individually. If you come to the after chat just now, I think at least a few of them are going to be there with us. Yeah. Okay. So that's a great opportunity. We're dropping the links there. There's a opportunity to see them again if you sign up on the form here. And thank you. I'd love to go to you, Tom, for any closing words, and then Richard's going to share a quick poem to, maybe a quick piece of music and a poem to just leave the way we started. But my just quick summation is to express gratitude and to just highlight that music and sound is really a sanctuary for the soul that provides comfort and connection in this rapidly changing world. So I'm reminded of the infinite possibilities at the intersection of creativity, technology, and the human spirit.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank each of you, Pauline, Akah, and Richard. It's such a gift to have you with us today. And I would just ask each of the people who've joined us today in the audience, or those who are watching this recording later, to just take a moment, close your eyes, and feel the healing experience that you just had in our time together today. And if anybody ever questions this ancient technology of sound and music, and the healing capability, the healing power that it has, we were just reminded once again of the power of music. And I just have deep gratitude for each of you for bringing your gifts today. Richard, before we turn it over to you to close us out, I just want to invite our audience to join us again tomorrow, where we're going to explore another ancient technology, the technology of storytelling, and the power that storytelling has. It's so easy, as I mentioned earlier, to get caught up into defining very narrowly technology as something that's computer-based or digital. But there are so many powerful technologies. And so tomorrow we'll be exploring the power of the technology of storytelling. So thank you all. And Richard,
And I'll just say, Tom, if you thought today was great, I think tomorrow won't disappoint either. We've got filmmakers that have made lots of films, both in the real traditional sense and those using AI. We've got a design fiction gentleman and futurist, and we have the creative director that's worked with so many different brilliant creative artists. She helped build the wearable flying dress for Lady Gaga. So it's a really interesting group of folks coming tomorrow to talk about the power of story. And it's just going to be building off of this incredible momentum from today from these three brilliant, wise souls. Thank you. And Richard, I'd love to have you close us out.
My pleasure. Normally when I play, I might play a single instrument for 15 to 30 minutes. So I have a minute and a half and then a half a minute for a poem. I'll do my best. So this is, all music comes from the breath, really. Don't worry about saving these songs. And if one of our instruments breaks, it doesn't matter. We have fallen into the place where everything is music. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and even if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. So the candle flickers and goes out. We have a piece of flint and a spark. The singing art is sea foams. The graceful movement comes from a pearl somewhere on the ocean floor. Poems reach up like spindrift in the edge of driftwood along the beach, wanting. They derive from a slow and powerful root that we can't see. Stop the words now. Open the window in the center of your heart and let spirit fly in and out. Thank you all.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you all for being with us today, and look forward to another beautiful day again tomorrow. And please join us in the after chat if you're able. And wishing you all a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you in the after chat.
Thank you, Tom.